What is going on, guys? Gannon here, and today we are making a video about what I personally think the One Piece is to me. Something that I should preface before this starts is that we only know so much about the actual, evidence surrounding the One Piece and what it is, and also I'm going to be talking a lot about the Void Century, and that's also going to be a lot of speculation on my part. So I know a lot of people are going to be saying, headcanon comments, down below, and that's totally fine. I'm just letting you know that we don't have a lot of information or evidence on this, so this is going to be purely speculative and totally my opinion on what the One Piece is. With that, let's get started. Alright, now before you talk about the One Piece, you should really talk about what the Void Century is and what you believe the Celestial Dragons to be, because they're very important figures that tie into this whole thing, and will tie into my conclusion when we get to that later. Okay, so the Void Century is basically something that happened around 900-800 years before the current story, and there's a problem because all previous history to that and all current history does not tie up because of that 100-year gap. Anyway, so there are very few things that we know that have happened in the One Piece storyline that give context to the Void Century. One thing we know about the three races of Sky People that came from the moon. We have the Skypeans, the Shandians, and the Birkins. We know that there was a great war surrounding Shandora. That doesn't really give us a whole lot of context. We know that there are people that came from the moon who make up these current Sky People that live in the One Piece world now. We also know from Clover and the Archaeologist from Robin's Island that there was a great kingdom that was destroyed by 20 other kingdoms, aka the Celestial Dragons, the descendants of them who come from those 20 kingdoms. Later that would evolve into the world government, and the kingdom was so powerful, I guess, that it, posed a great threat to the world, and that's why the world government says that that is strictly forbidden. Another thing we know about is Joy Boy, the person who built the Noah, the poneglyph that Robin read on Fishman Island, and he was supposed to raise Noah with Poseidon, and I'll get to the ancient weapons in a little bit. Basically, the whole poneglyph was his apology that he wasn't successful in his task. That's very vague, honestly. I'm really interested to learn about Joy Boy the most. We also know about the Tontada Kingdom, the dwarves in Dressrosa on Greenbit, that they were actually slaves to the rulers of Dressrosa pre-Void Century Gap, the ancestors of the current Don Quixote family. So if you didn't know that, Doflamingo, who was the ruler of Dressrosa, was actually kind of the rightful heir, because the Don Quixote family was rulers of the island of Dressrosa before, and so that's kind of how that works out. The dwarves totally don't know what happened during the Void Century. The only people that we should believe know what happened during the Void Century, we assume, are the higher-ups in the world government, and then also Roger and Rayleigh are confirmed to know what happened during the Void Century. The main reason people are not allowed to research the Void Century, the world government's main argument, is that they don't want them to uncover any information about the secret ancient weapons. The secret ancient weapons we know are Pluton, Poseidon, and Uranus. Pluton is an ancient battleship capable of mass destruction, and then the Poseidon, as we know, is a mermaid with the ability to control sea kings. Uranus, we don't know what that does at all right now. So that's basically why the world government has excuses for people that should not, under any circumstances, research the Void Century. Second thing I'd like to cover is, what are the Celestial Dragons to me? Okay, so basically, this is a really speculative theory, as I've already prefaced at the start of the video, but there was one main massive kingdom, and I don't have any reason to believe that that massive kingdom didn't reside on Raftel, and I believe that we're going to find out all the secrets of the world and the Void Century on Raftel. So, the Great Kingdom that Clover spoke about, in my opinion, was on Raftel. They were a very powerful force. To my knowledge, I wouldn't say that maybe they were corrupt, there was something wrong with them, we'd have no way of knowing. I actually believe that they were kind of, good. They were a very prosperous, very, republic-like, just ideal image of a good society. Then you have all these other 20 kingdoms, and I kind of believe that they are the evildoers here. You've got all these 20 kingdoms, and I assumed that they were sick of just one country having all the power in the world, probably having possession of the ancient weapons. So they kind of just staged a coup, or overthrowing that great country by coming together. I assume that these people, of course we know that they are the ancestors of the celestial dragons, were also kind of scummy. We know that the ancient Don Quixote family was pretty scummy. I mean, they had the Tontada tribe as slaves, so we have no reason to believe that the other ones weren't probably scummy as well, considering how all the celestial dragons in the current storyline are assholes, with the exception of a few examples. I talked about this in a discussion video I did with Frankie about what do we think the Gorosei are. It's my theory that the Gorosei aren't actually celestial dragons, but maybe an inner family, somebody who had, decent power in the Great Kingdom that presided on Raftel, that in exchange for assisting the rest of the 20 kingdoms in overthrowing that great kingdom, they had a very important role that they needed to play, something that only really they could do. So after they successfully helped the 20 kingdoms overthrow the main kingdom, then they were promised great power in the new world government that they were building. I believe that the celestial dragons wanted to give their descendants the responsibility of kind of running things while they just laid around in luxury in their new supreme kingdom, their very new corrupt supreme kingdom. So the Gorosei are a product of somebody really assisting in the coup and then being promised great power down the line in the new kingdom. So I believe that the 20 kingdoms combined together with maybe traitors from the, very strong main kingdom, and then they had this giant great war, and then after all that, they created the world government, and that is basically what I believe the Void Century to be. I don't know if I explained that well. There is kind of a lot to bring in, so if you have any further questions, just leave them down below. With that said, and all the foundation put down, what do I think the One Piece actually is? Now, we all know what the basic thing, the One Piece is right now, is that it's Gold D. Rogers' treasure. If you were to find this treasure, you're going to gain fame, infamy, fortune, everything one could desire, and you're going to become the Pirate King. But if that's all there was to it, and I think we all know that that's not everything there is to it, that would be hella boring. There is another underlying object there that has to do with the One Piece. In my personal opinion, the One Piece is Gold D. Rogers' legacy. And people are like, well, no shit, Gannon, it's what he left behind when he died, so of course it's his legacy, but it's more than that. It's a much more important legacy. My understanding is that Roger actually started the Age of Piracy on purpose. It was his last, final will. It was so that people would go out to seek his One Piece. Gold Roger did everything that he wanted to do in his life. He became the Pirate King. He achieved fame, fortune, everything he wanted to do. He went on this grand adventure with his pirate crew. But when he got to that final island and he realized the truth, the real truth about the Void Century and how the world government is corrupt and things really need to be switched over, they need to be stopped because they're an evil organization. Gold Roger, of course, couldn't do this because he was very close to dying of a terminal illness. It's not like he wasn't physically capable of it. Probably he just didn't have the time to. So with his little time remaining, he went out, turned himself in for that one opportunity to start the whole Age of Piracy, so that one destined pirate could go out and achieve his dream, and in the end find the One Piece and save the world, and that's exactly what Luffy is going to do. Like Clover said, the world government is basically inferred to be the enemies of the original Great Kingdom. The Poneglyphs were created by the Kozuki clan in order to relay that message to future generations when the world government was trying to cover up that century, the Void Century, and the D are most likely highly connected to the people of the Great Kingdom. They probably played a very important role earlier on in that Void Century. So basically, guys, the One Piece is Gold Roger's intentional legacy at finding a predecessor to overthrow the world government. That's just my personal opinion. If you don't agree with something I've said here, or if I analyze something incorrectly, please leave a comment down below. And with that said, guys, I'm going to have to see you in the next one.